Hello and welcome to Beachview, our fun podcast about fun things, and today is a very special episode because it's our last Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared episode.
Bum bum bum! For dramatic effect. So, we did, are we talking about episodes 5 and 6?
Yes, the last two Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared.
Alright, because that's what I watched, and I was like, wait, did I see this already? I couldn't remember if we already did 5, but then I was like, no, we only did 1 through 4.
Yeah, 1 through 4.
Okay. Yeah, so, right off the bat, I'm just going to start with, what was that? So, I'll let you, of course, you are very good at the synopsis, so if you don't mind, I'll let you talk about it, and I'll chime in.
Alright. So, Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared 5. We start off at a kitchen, and one of our usual crew of the red guy, the green duck, and the yellow guy is missing. And they're talking about that, it feels like something's missing, and there's, drawings of them, and they don't know what's going on, so obviously at the start something weird's happening, and then a little bread comes alive, and a can, and then a meat, and they all start, doing a song, the usual at this point. But the green duck's kind of like, no, I don't want to do this. Something's wrong here. And they're singing about food, and in the middle of this, the phone starts ringing, and the duck picks it up. And then we're transported to some operating table, something. It looks weird and dystopian, and I don't know. Something's going on there, certainly. And then we go back to, they're singing about food some more. You got the little house bit. Which is funny.
He says the body is like a house, and the food enters through the chimney, which is the mouth, and the bladder is in the basement.
Yeah, and the nice foods are invited to stay, but the bad
the nice foods are friendly. Yeah. Yeah. And then they explain there's like a model, like a body model, an anatomical model, and they explain good food or plain food like milk and whatever white stuff goes. I'll let you finish.
Yeah, that goes in the body just fine, but fancy food like fruit salad and cooked meats and eggs complicates the body and breaks it.
Yeah, breaks it down, and then the anatomical model is smashed. Yeah.
Yeah. They keep doing this, and then there's more weird stuff happening. We go back to that, the phone rings at another point here, and then we go back to, the, operating room, something, and...
Yeah.
There's a TV.
It's a crazy...
Yeah. It's all weird, and when we come back, the duck's gone, and it's just the little yellow guy in the foods.
Yeah.
And then we cut back to that room, and the yellow guy's a can and is eating something. And then he's shown eating the organs of the duck, which quite disturbing. They do their routine some more, and then we end up with the yellow guy by himself eating cans of duck.
Is that what it was?
Yes.
I didn't notice that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, there's little ducks on the can.
Okay, so, and he's, stuffing himself, gluttonously eating, and then the phone rings.
Yeah, and then we end, and in the credits, there's the red guy walking away from a phone booth, implying that he's the one who's been trying to reach them on the phone the whole time.
Yeah, it's very odd. Of course it is. But, I thought, okay, so, of course, again, the devil is in the details, right? So... when they first say, something seems off, or, whatever they say, I think it was the duck guy looks over, and there's, a drawing on the fridge, and he looks over, and the red guy is in the drawing with them. They're in the kitchen, same scene. The red guy's in the drawing, and then he looks again, and the red guy had disappeared from the drawing. And then the yellow guy is like, yeah, something's wrong, and he looks over at a portrait on the wall or something, and the red guy's in it, and then he looks again, but the red guy's still in it. So I'm just kind of you expect him to disappear from that portrait, but he doesn't. So initially, right off the bat, you're like, okay, like that's weird. And then the weirdest thing is when they're like, bad food makes your teeth turn gray. Like, why gray? It's so gross. You know, like just
Yeah.
the visual of gray teeth and gums is just nasty.
Yeah, and they're all talking about food and the foods you should eat and not eat.
Yeah, and it's like not exactly correct. Like,
Yeah.
it had when he talked about like the healthy foods are invited to stay in the house, and there's like a piece of pizza like waving, like, which isn't healthy, you know, or considered a healthy food. And then it says, but the bad foods have to leave, and it's like a carrot dancing around, you know. It's like,
Yeah.
carrots aren't bad. Like, what are you doing? And so it's like opposites. Like, it's just goofy stuff. And it was especially disturbing. The most disturbing part is when the surgeon guy in the operating room is like, it shows like he's like eating his organs from the bird guy or the duck, whatever it is. And it's just very strange and like chaos, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, what are some other details that you notice or just like funny?
Yeah, so before I get into my thing, I want to ask, like, what's your opinion on this? Because they start on both of these, really. They start introducing a story, and mine's definitely colored by the way the internet in general, or not maybe in general, but a certain part of the internet talks about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured I'd ask you before I go into my thing, because you'd have a different context on it.
So about the storyline?
Yeah, that they start introducing in this one.
Oh, I thought, yes. Okay, so about like the secondary story of like the red guy walking away from the photo booth. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, or like how he's missing, because after the events of
Yes.
the fourth one, he's gone.
Yes. So he's gone. Yeah. And so I thought that was funny because, like, okay, they introduce that he's missing at first. And, well, they don't really say he's missing, but they say something's off, like something's not right. And then they show him, like, disappear from the picture and stuff. And he's obviously not there. And so, like, that was your initial thing, like, okay, this is going to be kind of a weird one. I was thinking he would show up later on, but I didn't expect at the end of the credits. I thought it would be earlier in the storyline, you know? But when they showed him, like, walking away at the end, you're like, oh, so he's trying to call them, like, and then, you know, it's like, why was he gone? You know, so I thought it was interesting, especially for when I watched the last episode. I was like, oh, okay, like, he's still gone, you know? So I didn't read any kind of, like, internet reaction or anything to it, so I don't know what people are saying. But I just thought it was, like, an interesting part of the story. I don't know what the reason is, you know, like, why. I couldn't figure out what that was all about, unless it was just to lead up to this 6th episode. But since they're, like, aren't they, like, a couple years apart?
Released-wise, I believe so, yes.
Yeah, so I was kind of like, well, maybe it wasn't just to lead up to that episode. Maybe it was just, like, part of the story. I wasn't really sure why they did that.
Well, I think, because, you know, at the end of the fourth one...
So what did you, like, read about it?
Oh, because at the end of the fourth one, he's by himself on the computer, and he,
yeah,
goes in that room and gets his head popped. I think that's why he's missing in the 5th one.
Oh, okay. I got you. Yeah, I forgot about that part of it. But I didn't know if there was, like, another meaning behind it, you know, like, why he wasn't there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. We'll probably get more into this one in the 6th one, which is much more story-focused, but I don't like the story focus.
Yeah?
Yeah, like I said, it was because of the way the parts of the internet react to this, and it's a common sort of thing that happens. You get, you know, vague stories. Like, this doesn't have really hard plot to it. It's just the red guy's missing,
right.
And then at the end, he's been trying to call the whole time.
Yeah.
And that leads to wild speculation and a particular kind of, like, speculative thinking about, like, not just like, oh, what's happening here? It's like, there has to be, like, a secret meaning here, like the one true narrative. There is a coherent narrative, and we have to discover it, when it's just, like, little bits and pieces of things.
Right. Well, I was trying to figure out, you know, while I was watching it, okay, why? What's the meaning behind the red guy not being there, you know? So, but I mean, I didn't land on anything, obviously.
Yeah. And I don't like that kind of storytelling. I'm not sure if that's what they're going for here, but that's certainly what a lot of people took from it. And I really just don't like the sort of, hidden meaning, sort of, like, lay out clues, and they're supposed to be, like, a set narrative. These things are supposed to mean something very specific, instead of just, like, hey, this is, like, a vague storyline that doesn't have a coherent through line necessarily. I don't know. I just don't.
Well, that's what I was kind of. Yeah, I was kind of like trying to figure it out, but at the same time, I was like, well, what if that's not the intention, and it's just like just to add mystery to this episode? You know what I mean? So I didn't really like think too far into it, but I did think, I wonder if this was intentional as some sort of meaning, or if it was just like, you know, just funny part of the episode, because all of these episodes are like just wacky, and you know what I mean. So I was kind of like, I don't want to read too much into it, but apparently a lot of people did, it sounds like.
Yeah, and it's not just the reading it, it's a specific way. And also, like, I think even divorced from that, I don't think this 5th episode does a very good job of telling a story, like telling that story.
No, it doesn't. Yeah,
I think just it's the phone ringing, and like, I don't know, I feel like it interrupts. Like, I get why you'd want to go for that. You know, the status quo for this has been kids show set up, and then it goes wacky or disturbed in some way.
Yeah, definitely.
And, you know, this one's like, oh, we're adding a layer of story. You know, there's something building here.
Yeah.
But I don't think they do a very good job of it, and I think it just kind of interrupts the thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I don't know if this is really the forum to introduce an underlying story, you know what I mean? But I definitely get what you're saying. It's kind of like, okay, well, what is the story? You know, it doesn't really lend itself well to that, like, because it's just a, you know, like you said, disturbed show. I mean, a little, you know, a short film kind of thing. So I agree. I don't think it kind of really went with it, but the only thing to me that it added was mystery. And also, like we talk about with all of these, like the comedic timing, when the phone rings and everybody just looks at it, and then the bird gets up and like in slow motion like walks over to the phone and reaches for it. So I mean, like those details, I think the timing of it, and the reaction to the phone and how it stops everything, I can see how those little bits add a little bit to it, but you don't know until the end that it's, you know, and supposedly it's the red guy, you know? So I think only for the comedic timing of it does it lend anything to the story.
But, you know, to move off sort of the story bits into the thing itself, this is also, I think, my least favorite episode, just on the, like, that by itself. I don't like these characters as much, the weird like food guys. And I don't think their songs as good as other ones.
No, it's not. I did think it was funny when he's like poking the bird with the fork, and the bird's like making noise like rah! Like that to me is always the funniest part to these, is like when one of the characters is like, no, stop, what are you doing, something's wrong, you know, and they just keep going and going. Yeah, so I mean, that is the only part of it I thought was kind of funny. And then I think there was another part where the singing can is like pushing him or something, or hitting him in the head or something like that, or like throws something at him. I don't remember exactly what it was, but anyway, that might have been the 6th one actually. Oh, that I'm thinking about it. But anyway, I think there's another part where the can's like pushing him or something. But like those types of things are funny to me. It's like stop, you know, and they just keep going and going and going. But yeah, I agree. This isn't my favorite one, but it was, you know, the ending was interesting. Yeah.
I will say there are some good bits still. You know, their set design is good as always. Yes. I think they do a good job with that, like, operating theater.
Yes.
Whatever's going on there. And the jokes are still good. I especially like, I think my favorite's when they're feeding that weird body model, and that, like, it's like, look, it's broken, and he smashes it, the little meat guy.
He steps on it, it's like, okay. Yeah, that was That's funny. And I think they did a good job of making like the surgeon yellow guy like seem like crazy, you know, like first they show he's like laughing and he's like eating his hands, you know, like his hands are in his mouth, and then they did a good job of like setting him up as like the crazy, you know. So those kinds of things I think they did a good job on still, but like you said, the song wasn't as good. I mean, there's still the gross part of like, it'll make your gums turn gray or your teeth turn gray. And of course, like what they're singing about doesn't make any sense, especially like toward the end where they're talking about, you know, you don't want to eat that tasty treat. Instead, like eat yeast. And then it's like, but how much yeast do you eat? Like, why would you eat yeast, you know? So it's like those like things that don't make any kind of sense, like add to the comedy of it, of course. But yeah funny. Yeah, and
you missed
when they cut to the intestines.
You missed a gross out bit, like probably one of the like most disturbed ones so far, where he's eating the duck's organs, like.
Yeah, I was just gonna say when they cut to him eating the intestines, like I immediately was like, like was not expecting that, you know, like ew, the gross part, you know. Yeah, that was definitely, to me, still, like, the most disturbing one was, like, when they cut into that cake and it was, like, all, like, gross-looking, bloody stuff. Yeah, that, to me, is still the worst, but this was right up there with it. Right. Very gross.
So, one last thing before we move on, unless you have something to add. I think if this one's about anything, it's about, like, these kids shows teaching, like, food poorly, and they give a bunch of like contradictory information, and there's that one part where he has that weird like sort of like, oh, you need to eat plain foods, those are good for you, not these fancy foods, and they're not like fancy foods at all. It was like fruit salad, cooked meat and eggs. Like that's pretty basic stuff.
One of the fancy foods was spoiled vegetables. Do you remember that? One of the fancy food was like spoiled vegetables. Like, that's not fancy.
Yeah.
Gross. Yeah, that was funny.
Right. So, nothing else to add?
Nope, that's it. Let's go on to episode 6.
Okay, so, plot synopsis. So, in this one, we open up with the yellow guy by himself in bed, and he's sad because his friends aren't with him. And he's all, you know, crying and saying, "Good night, guys, I miss you." And then he turns off the light to go to sleep, the lamp, and then the lamp comes alive and says, "Oh, you're trying to sleep? But that's silly, you don't know about dreams." And he says no and slaps the lamp's nose, which is the light switch. But the lamp is undeterred and decides to sing a song about dreams anyways, which the yellow guy doesn't like. And then we go to an animated segment where he's walking around explaining dreams, and he's like, you can have dreams about lots of things, including drowning in oil, and then we move back to the puppet part, and the little yellow guy's drowning in oil, and the lamp's kind of like tormenting him. It's like, oh, looks like somebody's having a bad dream.
Yeah.
And then we cut to a new set for this, and it looks like it's meant to be more reminiscent of the real world, and not like a, you know, TV set for a kid's show. And we see the red guy on his computer, and another red guy comes up to him, and he's like, "Can you file this file for me?" And our red guy, you know, the protagonist red guy, is like, "Hey, wouldn't it be funny if, like, this file came to life and started doing a song and dance?" And all his co-workers, who are also red guys, look at him, and he's like, "No."
That would be boring.
Yeah. And he's kind of embarrassed or disappointed by this. And then we move to a club with a bunch of red guys hanging out, and they're kind of just talking, you know, in their sort of monotone voice, and there's a guy playing the piano, and the red guy goes up without any clothes. Oh, I forgot to mention, they're all wearing clothes, even though the red guy usually doesn't wear clothes.
Yeah.
And he does he starts doing a version of the song from the first one up on stage. And all the other red guys in the audience don't like it, and they boo him. And then he sees, in the back of the room, the yellow guy's dad, who was introduced in one of the earlier, I think 2 of the earlier
I thought it
episodes.
was just like a fake yellow guy. Like, I thought it was just, like, not the real yellow guy. It was just, like, a different one.
Oh,
I
no.
didn't realize.
No, he was introduced, I think, in the
Oh.
Time one first, and I think he's in another one.
Okay, I do not remember. Yeah.
He specifically says, "This is my dad," or something to that effect.
Okay. I didn't realize that. All right.
You're right, and he looks at him from across the room. He's lit, and then we cut to a different place that's sort of this weird, like, fake place, and they're in a tiled floor room, like, there's nothing else but the stereo and the microphone, who are our weird puppet guys, that come to life. And the red guy's here, and he walks over to some machine where he can watch what's happening to the yellow guy in bed, where the lamp's still tormenting him, and he can, like, press a switch and change stuff about it. Like, this is like some sort of control room or something. And he changes the lamp guy to a bunch of different characters, including, the clock from the second one, the computer from the fourth one. We get that little baby pigeon again.
Which isn't a pigeon,
Yes.
it's a butterfly or something.
Yeah, and then we get new ones, and it's just, like, at this point, cycling through different, like, things that they could, you could teach kids about. Like, there's something about space, something about sports, there's, like, and then
hair gel.
Yeah, it increasingly gets weird. Like, one of them's just, like, a tuba that doesn't say anything that makes sense. Like, they increasingly become nonsensical, and then at some point, the yellow guy's getting more and more upset, and the red guy looks over, and the yellow guy's dad reaches out to him with his really long arm for some reason.
Really long arm, yeah.
And then he turns around and sees him, and, he's lit in this very sinister sort of tone, and it holds on him for a second to sort of make him look out to be the antagonist, as the red guy's, like, trying to stop this machine from torturing the kid. And he goes over to this plug and unplugs the machine, but before he does that, he says, "I wonder what will happen." And then we end up in a scene from the first one, except they're all different colors. The red guy's blue now, the yellow guy's green, and the green duck is red. And it shows a picture of the calendar, which has been stuck on 19 June for this whole series. And then it goes down to the 20th, and then we see the little creativity notebook pop up again, and it ends.
Yeah.
That was... long plot
that
summary.
was a good synopsis.
No,
it was good. It was a long. It was a very involved episode, and it was like utter chaos. Okay, like everything, like cycled through. I thought it was so weird that, like, the red guy is, like, in a workplace now, and, like, I thought it was so funny how he's like, "Hey, what if this file came to life and started singing?" And everybody's just like, "What?" And then, like, it basically shows, like, how mundane his life is. Like, there's, like, a scene where you're looking up at the stairwell, and all you see is, like, red guys just, like, walking downstairs, It's all very, like, mundane and kind of, like, routine, like, no creativity. And then when he starts to perform in the club, and they're like, "This is not good at all," Like, it's like all the red people, like, just want boring stuff. And he's trying to, like, liven it up. And I especially thought the funniest part to me is when he was doing his bit in the club on the stage, and he has, like, a little puppet of the duck and a little puppet of the yellow guy on his hands, and, like, a little hand puppets, like, as if they're talking, I thought that was really cute, because he's, like, misses his friend,
Yeah.
Yeah, this one was crazy, though. It, like, recycled all the themes from the other ones. It went into some other crazy stuff, and it was funny. And then it had that, like, Groundhog Day effect at the end, where you're like, "Oh my gosh, is this starting all over again?" Like, you initially think, like, "Oh, things are back to normal, they're all together, and it's gonna be great," and then it, like, starts over again.
Yeah, but the day moves forward, so who knows what
that
means.
But that's what I'm saying, like, Groundhog Day, it might be, like, the same day starts over again.
Well, the calendar falls off, and it shows it going to the next date, which, speaking of, this one's actually going to go up on June 19th. I didn't plan it like that, but that's a great coincidence.
Oh, that is funny.
Yeah.
That's very funny. I love it. I like when the universe comes together. Yeah, no, okay, so what were your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so this one's definitely very story-focused. But before I get into that, I do want to say, this is probably one of the funniest ones to me.
Yeah.
I like the comedy in this one a lot. I like, when he says no and just hits the lamp to turn him off.
Yeah.
I think that
is like my favorite parts of these, or that he's like, no, stop, like with such attitude, like he's over it. He's so done with like talking and singing objects. He's like, stop. It's so funny.
And I think, when the lamp's like saying you can have a dream about drowning in oil, I like the way he says that, and then it shows like the yellow guy waking up and drowning in oil.
Yeah, he's like, stop. Yeah.
And the little like dance he does where he's like, looks like somebody's having a bad dream.
Yes. Yeah. I thought the dancing, like how he's moving his legs, like just taunting him, like, come on, man, like this is a bad news lamp, Yeah.
And I think the entire red guy section where he's in like I don't want to call it the real world, but like outside of the set.
Yeah.
I think that is just all really good. I think their deadpan sort of delivery is great, especially when they like he's doing his little song and dance with the file and they all start looking at him and it's kind of awkward and they're all like, no, that sounds really boring.
No, yeah. Yeah, they like just get back to work, man. Like it's so funny that he's like trying his best to like insert some creativity and they're not having it at all.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the scene at the club where they're all talking, I think their conversation's funny. I especially like the guy in the leather jacket who's like, I'm the cool one, I guess.
Yeah. Exactly. And I liked when he gets up on stage and he puts like the stereo on and he goes by the microphone, and the guy who is playing piano, who first of all like wasn't even playing anything, like it was basically just like hitting keys on a piano. And he gets up and like grabs his sheet music and he's like, that is so rude, or whatever, he says, well, that's rude, something like that, and like storms off.
Yes.
Like that was funny.
That's great. And I like,
dare you interrupt me?
I like their booing.
Yeah.
They're still pretty deadpan.
Yes.
And they're like, I don't like it. Like, it's not good at all.
Yeah. It's not good at all. Yeah. And I thought it was funny that he was like clothed before, but then when he gets up on stage, he's not clothed.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like he's trying to get things back to the way they were, so,
Yeah.
It was funny. And then the long arm that reaches out, like, that was comical, because, like, the arm was just, like, the length of the room. Like, it just kept going and going and going,
Yeah. So, what do you think about the story?
I thought it was interesting. Like, I didn't understand it, like, not that I didn't understand it. I mean, I understood it, but I was just kind of like, where are they going with this? Like, is he only a part of the quote real world now, or is he gonna like go back to his like crazy little world with his friends? And then you're like, well, was all of this, like all of the episodes, was it all just like imagination? Was he like dreaming this? And he really does like work in the real world, and all the real world is filled with are red people, and then all the rest of it's just a dream. Like, it's kind of like wondering those things as we were going on. So, I mean, I liked the story. I thought it was cool because it has just different layers to it that you're like, wait, is this the intention or is this the intention? So it made you think. It's thought-provoking for sure.
I will say, it's not a dream. We know from the first one and then in the fourth one that this is a film set. Like, in that, before it starts to go all wacky in the first one, they cut back and you can see the camera and sort of like the director's chair in it. It's like, oh, this is a film set. They're being filmed. And then that happens again in the fourth one. But it kind of undermines that because he doesn't seem to know what's going on when they cut.
Right. And to me, like, the film sets are like, well, wait, is it really just all film or is this real life? Like, it makes you question, is it really a film set or is it not?
Yeah. And it seems like, that, like, control room, I think, would also, because it's got that, like, the reels on it that look like film reels, and it's, like...
Yeah.
It feels like, in some way, it's a film set that, like, warped reality or something, and like, I don't know, like...
Is it like The Truman Show?
Yeah, like...
Have you ever seen
yes,
that?
Yes,
Yeah.
and it like traps people in it or something?
Yeah, like there's something odd, like a weird little universe, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely interesting. Yeah, I like the story behind it and and like all the little talking, singing objects, started like cycling through.
Yes.
There's just like total chaos, and the poor little yellow guy, it really makes you like sympathize with him, like, oh, look at him. Like, he's like, no, stop, I can't take it anymore. And I couldn't tell if the red guy was trying to stop it or if he was just going crazy with it, like just trying to.
It looked like he
get
was
back
trying
to a
to
normal
stop
scenario.
it, like, or trying to do something
Yeah.
with it to make it stop, and he couldn't figure out how to do it.
Yeah. I did not catch the fact that was the yellow guy's dad. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, well, that's what you get when you've watched these for dozens of times over the years.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I only watched it once.
But in the second one, he says something about his dad in two of them, I know that.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just he says it twice in one of them, I don't know. But he does bring up his dad, and it's that same puppet.
Yeah. That's so interesting. It's like you're feeling bad for the little yellow guy from the get-go, and then like his dad shows up in this like other reality.
Yes.
So
what I think's going on here with the story, though, is, we have the lead-up, the aftermath, they're both missing now, and the yellow guy's by himself in the film universe. We've established there's something weird going on there, but it's supposed to be like a film, and that would make sense with, like, the kids' show aspect to it. And then we cut to the red guy, and I think this is supposed to have happened in the past, chronologically. Like, the red guy's living in this world where he's got, like, boring office job, that sort of, like, trope of the guy with the boring office job, and he wants to spice up his life a little, so he's like, what if we did something, the File, we're singing and dancing, and he goes to the club, and he's, like, trying to be creative in a world that, like, doesn't like his creativity. And we cut to the yellow guy's dad, and I think that's, like, there's an implication that what happened here is the yellow guy's dad saw him, and he's like, hey, I like your idea, let's make a TV show about it.
Oh.
And then we have, like, the rest of this stuff. He makes a TV show, but something wrong happens and it goes weird. And then when we cut to the weird, like, tiled floor zone, and he has that, like, control room, I think he's trying to, like, stop the TV show. And the yellow guy's dad comes to, like, sort of apprehend him. Like, he doesn't do much other than put his hand on his shoulder and sort of look at him, and he's like, he's clearly meant to be menacing, he's clearly meant to be like the villain with how they frame him. And I think that's the implications, like the yellow guy's dad and the red guy made a TV show, the yellow guy's dad put his son in it, and it all like went messed up because the yellow guy's dad's a villain or something.
Okay.
And then he unplugs it.
I did not get that. I didn't put that together at all. Like, I didn't think that way about it.
Yeah. So, what do you think about the ending? I think you already said it's kind of like a Groundhog Day, so you think that's like sort of a dark ending? Like, they're just gonna repeat everything over again?
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those open-ended, like, cliffhangers, like, the Notebook pops up, and you're like, oh, not this again. Like, to me, it was kind of like, oh, we're stuck in this cycle now, you know? Yeah, that's the kind of implication I got from it. Like, I was just like, oh, no. It's like the day moved on, and you're like, oh, great, that craziness is over. But then, like, the Notebook pops open, you're like, oh, man, not this again, Right. That's what I took from it.
But they're different colors this time, so...
Yeah, they're all different colors. So I was like, what? Like, this is just utter chaos. Yeah, but I did like, because I don't like the gory stuff. Like, I mean, I know the gory stuff, like, adds to it, but I like that this one didn't have, like, the gory stuff. It still has, like, that manic, like, desperation there. Like, like, leave me alone, stop, go crazy. But it doesn't, it didn't have any of the gory stuff that I don't like, so I enjoyed that part.
So about the story here, like, again, I don't like it. I do think, at least in this one, compared to the last one. It's competently executed. Like, I think they tell it well.
Yeah.
And, this one has really good set design. It has a ton of set. Like, this is the most stuff they've done, in one of these. Like, with the red guy sections, where they have all those actors playing the red guys, and, like, they have all the different puppets.
Multiple scenes.
They bring out, like, for the last part. And that's, like, there's a ton of work here. And like I said, the comedy's really good. But I bring all this up. I do like this one. But I don't like the story. And it's like I said, that it's the type of story and that a lot of people on the internet like this. And I don't care for it,
Yeah.
Like, I'm fine with, things that are vague and things that are sort of, like, loosely tell narratives and more through implication than through, like, direct meaning. I don't think it adds anything here in particular, and I think it's the kind of, like... It's a kind of storytelling I just don't care for. And, I don't know, I don't think it was necessary for this series. I don't think the story adds anything, honestly. I don't think, like... It seems like it's meant to recontextualize, maybe, the rest of the series, but I don't think it adds anything, Like...
To me, it just added, like, an air of mystery. Like, okay, this is a whole different, like, world that he's living in,
He lives in an uncreative world, and he wants to be creative, and that gets exploited and turned into something dark and twisted. I mean, maybe that is the point. Creatives try to make something, and then the yellow guy's dad represents sort of like the controllers of this, like producers or like, the companies that finance these sort of things. And ends up like making something dark with the creativity.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it, I don't know that I would say it doesn't add to it. Like, I think I would say it may not be necessary, but it does add another layer, So, that one's hard for me to say whether or not I really liked it or not. I'm kind of like, I could take it or leave it, but it was entertaining at least.
Yeah, that's true. So you're not as negative on it as I am?
No. I mean, I could take it or leave it. It wasn't like, oh, I hate this,
Well, like I said, I like this episode. I think it makes the fifth one look worse in comparison because it makes the story bits in that one
I think
all
so.
set up for this, which does a fine enough job on its own that it doesn't need that setup, really.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely. And that's probably why I didn't like the fifth one as much, because I watched it right before I watched this one. I was like, oh, this one's better,
Yeah. Well, that's been Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. Closing thoughts on the whole series, or anything to add about the sixth one before we move on to closing thoughts about the whole series?
Yeah, I don't think I have anything to add about the sixth one. But on the whole series, okay. So on the surface, this series is just like so weird and like, what? Weird? How did they come up with this? Like, who is writing this? Like, that's like initially, what I think. Getting into it and really analyzing it, I found it to be funny. Like, it's a comedy, but it's also like dark and gory and just totally goofy because all the stuff like contradicts, itself, and like, things are named the wrong name or, all this stuff. And there's definitely like some messages behind each of these things. So on the surface, it's like so weird. And then like beneath the surface, it's like very complex, So I have to say, like, I enjoyed watching them. I don't know that I would like sit there and rewatch them like you have. But I definitely think it was a good series. Again, we all know that I like really value creativity, right? I talk a lot about that, and I thought this was like super creative, and that to me was like the best. I like stories that are just kind of crazy, So I thought this was one of those, and so overall, I definitely liked it, and I appreciated it creatively.
Yes.
Yeah. What about you?
So, I mean, I've said this at the top of every one of our episodes, I think, about this, is this is one of my favorite series on YouTube. Like, I think it's really great. I think they make great use of the platform. Like, I think this is something I haven't gone into a ton, but this is, like, really well set for going big on YouTube. You know, that sort of, like, take something familiar and twist it and do this really weird and creative thing that's a bit disturbing, but also really funny. And I think that, you know, the comedy's great. There's really talented at their sort of puppetry and set design and animation. They put a ton of work into this, and I think it really pays off. And even though I don't think the last 2 episodes really stick the landing with the story they introduced to it, I still think there's good bits in there. It's still worthwhile overall.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that.
Yeah, and I'm a huge fan of this series.
Yeah, I feel like this is not something I would have watched on my own. And so I really like when people introduce me to new things that I would never choose on my own. Like, it just kind of, you know, broadens my horizons a little bit. So I definitely appreciated you introducing me to these.
Yeah. Well, that's the end.
My life will never be the same.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the end. Yeah. Well, good. We're going to have to find another series to watch.
Another series, maybe. So you want to do more YouTube stuff at some point?
Yeah, I think it'd be fun.
All right. I'll have to think of some stuff.
Yeah. All right. Do you want anything else? Or you want me to take us out?
Oh, real quick. What's your favorite episode?
Oh man. I like I was going to say I like the time one. What was the 4th one?
The computer.
Okay. And then just watch 5th and 6th. So there was the Notebook, the time. Was the third? Oh, the 3rd one was the one with the
butterfly
pigeon thing.
Yes, and they're having their picnic.
Oh man. Okay, I like the 6th one and the 2nd one. I think the best. What was yours?
2nd or 4th, but the 6th one might be in the running for the funniest.
Yeah. I just liked it because it kept cycling through all of them.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
But you had to have seen all the rest of them to understand this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and one more thing. Favorite character?
Oh, I like the bird. The duck thing, or whatever it is.
Yeah, you like the
duck?
duck?
The bird guy. Yeah, that was my favorite.
None of the villains are your favorite?
No. I like the duck the best. I like the yellow guy, how he's like, what? Like, he kind of sounds dumb.
Well, I think he's meant to be a kid. Like, I think he's meant to be like a young kid, the kind you'd have on these sort of kid shows.
Well, yeah, he's funny, but I like the duck the best. The villains, I liked... Honestly, I probably like the Notebook the best. Because he's like, green is not a creative color.
Yeah,
I'm like, no.
Great all-time line.
Yeah, like that one was funny to me, so I think I like the Notebook.
Yeah, I think my favorite's the red guy.
Yeah?
Any of them. I just love the little, like, you know, deadpan expression sort of thing. He's very, like, that sounds really boring.
I like all his dreadlocks, like, blow out when he talks, you know? Yeah, that's interesting.
And as for villains, I don't know, maybe the computer?
Oh, that was a good one.
Or the clock?
Yeah. I really like how all the villains are, like, very discouraging at some points.
Yeah.
And I like how the protagonists are like, no, leave me alone, stop. And they just keep going. Yeah, very funny.
All right, well, take us out then.
All right. Well, thank you, listeners, for listening to The Beach View. And we hope you'll join us on our next episode. Bye.
Bye.